Hello, I'm Tanya, and we're going to talk about security learning to sprint. And what I mean by this is DevSecOps. So let's do this. Let's start with DevOps. This is a super famous slide by Pete Schlegelbach. And basically, this is how some people see DevOps. Some security people are like, yeah, they move fast and break things, and we have to clean up the mess behind them. But that's not how I see DevOps. So this really awesome human named Francois Renaud, who founded this conference series called DevSecCon, he made this slide, and I love it. And so this is how I see DevSecOps, how he sees it. It's us helping, enabling, assisting all the awesome DevOps folks. They still move fast and break things, but ideally they do so safely and securely. And so this is us assisting, enabling them, running alongside, making sure they're doing the right things, and us security folks adjusting what we do so it works within their processes. So I want to set the stage for a few things so we're all on the same page. So this is a problem that a lot of people have seen. Security is a bit outnumbered. So I joke that I'm her. I'm the whole AppSec team. So the numbers used to be 100 to 1, but GitHub released an article in January of this year where they estimate that it's 500 software developers for every one security person. And that means we can't just work harder. We absolutely have to work smarter. And so security being outnumbered is a problem in our industry. Another thing that is a problem in our industry that we're moving away from, all of us, is from waterfall. So waterfall just really didn't work very well. Around 70% of software projects that did waterfall would fail. And sometimes it would fail where it's like 6 months late and really over budget, but they do finish the project. It's still not a passing grade, let's just say. And so the accompanying security model, which I like to refer to as hurry up and stop for security, because there was a lot of gates, a lot of stopping the progress that other teams were doing so that we would have time to catch up and secure things. And so this is why the industry started doing DevOps. And this is why us security folks really, really want to do DevSecOps. Let's talk about the 3 ways of DevOps. So if you read the DevOps handbook, if you read the Phoenix Project, the Unicorn Project, Accelerate, they prescribe that there are 3 ways, like 3 requirements that you need to do all of DevOps and get all of the value out of it. And so they are called the 3 ways of DevOps. And the first is that we emphasize the speed of the entire system. The entire system must be efficient, not just your part, Tanya. The next thing is we need fast feedback. And I want to add to this fast feedback that gets to the right person and it's accurate. And so that is the thing that a lot of security teams have to work on. Just getting feedback, but having it be fast enough, having it get to the right people, having it not be full of false positives. This has been a big issue traditionally for security teams. And then lastly, so some people call it continuous learning. Some people call it experimenting and risk-taking. Some people call it taking time to improve your daily work. But whatever you want to call the third way, it's about continuing to learn and continuing to improve and add to the efficiency, make the feedback faster, make the feedback get to the right person or more high quality. And so it's taking time out, usually each month, one day, to improve all these things. So let's look at the goals of DevOps. So DevOps has 3 goals. So software developers couldn't just say, we want to do it. We just want to start doing DevOps now because we think it's cool. That's not an option. They can't just change their mind and just start doing a new methodology. There had to be reasons, and then the business had to accept and approve those reasons. And the first one was improved deployment frequency. And this is my favorite one because when I heard this, I'm like, oh, wait. You can make security emergencies fixed faster? Yes, you can put out emergency patches faster. Yes, this sounds awesome. Tons of security win. And then the next one was lower failure rates. So I see what the DevOps folks like about that. They call it resiliency. They want their app to be tough and rugged. But what I heard was availability. So like when I hear resiliency, I think, oh yeah, great. Resiliency is the A in the CIA. So if my apps are going to be available more often and more reliable, boom, awesome. I'm so on board this boat. And then the third thing that is the goal of DevOps is faster time to market. And I have heard a lot of security folks say, well, who cares? Like, security doesn't care about that. That's not a security priority. And then I remind everyone that we don't win if the business doesn't also win. If our competitors beat us to market and we go out of business, we don't need a security team anymore. And so sometimes the faster time to market is the thing the security team's getting in the way of by setting up gates and slowing things down. And we can't win if the business doesn't win, and the business can't win if we are setting up 100 gates. And so I feel like this is like a contentious issue, but it's the most important one on this list. I don't feel security can win if the whole business isn't winning. So I love DevOps, and I also love OWASP. And so this is a giant compliment from me. I believe that DevOps is the best thing to happen to application security since OWASP, a giant community dedicated solely to trying to help secure software. And so let's talk about DevOps and the 3 ways. And then we're going to talk about how we can weave security through all those ways. Okay, so the 3 ways. So the first way is to emphasize the efficiency of the entire system. So not just Tanya's part, because that's the way I used to think when I was a dev. I'm like, I did my job, toss it to ops. I'm like, your problem now. No longer is that the case. Dev and ops are besties now, and security wants to be their friends too. And so sometimes we call this left to right or speed. So if you imagine the system development lifecycle, I know for DevOps, we usually do an eternity symbol, but basically what we want to do is make it way faster. And so what does this mean for dev and ops if we're trying to make this thing more efficient? So first of all, we security folks need your help. So we need help tuning our tools when we put in a pipeline. Like if you get a false positive, you need to tell us so we can make sure that never happens again. If the tool is slower than your team feels is acceptable, you have to tell us. We can't read minds. Maybe we think 40 minutes is super fast and you feel that's eternity. So we need you to tell us what's going on. And whenever possible, we need you to reuse known good code. But basically, we need you to use up-to-date images. We want you to be using a security pipeline. So if we make a pipeline that doesn't release anywhere, but just does security tests, let us test your code, please. There's so many things that you can do, but this is an event focused on security folks. So let's get to what they're going to do. So it means that we need to stop being a bottleneck. We can't just be a gate and make everyone wait for us all the time. We need to work really hard to improve our processes so that everything works and people can get their jobs done efficiently and effectively. And so this means that we can't break a build under false pretenses. It has to be a true emergency. It means efficiency and automation as often as possible. But let's get a bit more specific. So one thing we could do is we could break security activities into smaller pieces. So if they're going to do a sprint, we're going to do a sprint. Could you fix these 3 bugs in this sprint? Could you fix 2 more in the next sprint? Awesome. Or I'm going to run tests in this sprint and I'm going to give you the bugs in the next sprint so that you know that that's coming. We need to tune our tools so that we're not giving false positives, because when we send people on a wild goose chase, no one likes that. So it's very important we don't produce a lot of false positives. We want to adjust our processes to make sure we can match pace with dev and ops or DevOps. And ideally, whenever possible, we want to create standards or templates for the dev and ops folks to follow that are secure by default, so that they're not reinventing the wheel all the time. Like whatever ways we can support them to ensure they have reproducible security things, that is something that we definitely want from them. Sometimes it's called a secure coding library. It's up to you what it's called, but it's worth its weight in gold, trust me. I know software doesn't weigh anything. Okay, so next, what else does this mean for security? So I have created previously a parallel pipeline. So when we talk about CI/CD pipelines, usually we mean release pipelines, and it builds your code, does some tests, pushes to dev, does more tests, pushes to QA, etc., and it releases your code. But you can actually make one that just builds and just runs 20 tests, and it never releases anywhere, and it can run at the same time as all the other tests. As long as you're not actually interacting with the same instance of the app at the same time, you should be fine. And so lots of times I'm like, I'm going to do these 3 checks in the real release pipeline that everyone's focusing on, but my little security one underneath, I'm going to do that super slow, long test, and I'm going to look at those results later. I'm not bothering anyone. So if we can create stuff like this for you and you use it, life is very good. Another thing we can do is buy licenses for security tools for the developers so they can test things themselves before it even gets into the pipeline, if that's possible. It can mean sometimes writing cool libraries that help dev and ops. It's about what you have time to do. Like, that's not for everyone to write your own libraries. Like, we're not all Netflix and Microsoft and Google where we can write our own everything, but some of us can if we really need to. But the point is to enable dev and ops in every single way you can. Be creative. I've seen some super interesting, amazing ways that companies have worked, like the security team with the rest of IT, to do super innovative types of things. It's okay to be creative as long as you focus on the feedback from the people you're serving. And as security folks, we serve the rest of IT. That's what we do. So this is the second way of DevOps. And this is fast feedback. So it's right to left. And so if you imagine the system development lifecycle like this, where are we going? We're going left on the screen. And so a lot of us in the security industry call this shifting left or pushing security left. And the idea is the earlier we can start security and start giving feedback to the ops folks, to the SREs, to the developers, to the 10x engineer, whoever we're giving this feedback to, the earlier we give it, the better it is and the more they can do with it. And so if you can be at the project kickoff meeting, you be there. And so what can we do about this? So it costs exponentially more the later in the system development lifecycle that you find a bug and try to fix it. And here in production, you see how it's almost $8,000. This assumes the good guys find it. That means my team, the security team, you guys and gals. It does not mean when a malicious actor finds it and you have a security incident, or even worse, like a data breach or something even worse than that. So then it goes off the charts, right? So this is assuming that the people on the good side found it. And so this is, whenever I try to get buy-in about like, oh, I'd like to start security earlier, I tend to show them a lot of data like this. And so what does this mean for dev and ops? It means we need some feedback from all of you. I need to know if there's a problem. The security team then needs to listen to that feedback and take action. I also need the dev and ops team, really, I need you to participate in security activities. So if we have a security sprint where all you're supposed to do is fix security bugs, please fix the security bugs. Oh my gosh, please don't spend that time to work on other things in the backlog. Like, we worked so hard to get everyone to agree to have a security sprint. Please don't waste that time. Not that fixing other bugs is a waste of time, but security needs time allocated to it. If we're gonna have a security simulation, like a tabletop exercise, join in, learn, come threat model with us. Like, if we invite you to a training or an activity, if you can, please participate. Okay, and what does this mean for security? So first of all, it means shifting security left. This means us providing feedback as often as we can, as early as we can, and as accurately as we possibly can. And so since you work mostly in security, I think all of you already know the benefits of this, but it can't be understated. When security gives feedback really late in the process, there's not enough time to fix it. There's not necessarily enough time to do a really good fix. If we're there at the beginning while they're designing the product and we offer feedback then, they will design a significantly tougher, more rugged, more secure product because we're there. If we show up 2 months later after they've already started building it, it's very difficult to make giant changes. And so we want to start security earlier. And so what else does this mean? It means we need to listen to feedback. It means that we need to ask for feedback. I want to know what's good, what's bad, what could be better. It might sound odd, but us getting feedback from the developers about our security program, about our processes, about the tooling we've chosen, they're our customers. It's our job to serve them. And if we're not asking for feedback ever, we have no idea if they like what we've been serving them. And I would ideally like to ensure as much as possible that we are doing the best job we can. We can't do that without asking. Okay, so what else does this mean for security? So I'm a big fan of using unit tests for security. So a positive test is, does this unit of code do what it should do? And if it does, you're like, cool, you passed. But a negative test is where you test, does this unit of code do stuff it shouldn't do. Like if I put some cross-site scripting stuff in, does it pop a pop-up for me? Does it do things that it should not do? Does it fail gracefully and safely? And so you can make unit tests for security. Like if you're going to make a ton of unit tests anyway, maybe the security team could get in on that action. Another thing is inviting the developers and operations folks or DevOps folks, depending upon how you call it in your org, invite them to participate. Like bring them on a security incident if it has to do with their systems, invite them to threat modeling sessions, plan a security sprint with them, do a tabletop exercise. Like there's so many ways that we could learn and give feedback to each other. Someone has to take the first step, and I think it should be security. Another thing we can do is use metrics to track trends. Then we can give those metrics to dev and ops. Like, listen, we're having problems with cross-site scripting, but we totally kick butt at using security headers. And so I need you to focus on this or that. So I'm a big fan of using metrics so I know if my program's working, but it's also nice to share that data with everyone else. Like, hey, all of you are doing an awesome job. Just thought I'd let you know. Another thing is you can make unit tests out of pen test results. And then you can make sure that those problems never come back. And so that's another way that you could be efficient and effective. Continuous learning, the third way of DevOps. Some people call this full circle, taking time to improve your daily work, or experimentation and risk taking. So lots of people call it any of those things, but what it means is we're taking time to do better regularly. We dedicate time to this. And so what does this mean for dev and ops? It means if we offer security training, oh my gosh, please come. If there's a lunch and learn, please come. If you are open to it, you could train yourself. So at the end, I'm going to invite you to this online community that I founded, which is free. And we have free secure code training in there. We have free infrastructure as code securities. Like we have AppSec, we have cloud security. We have like so many courses in there and they're all free. Everything's free. And so you could train yourselves on security. Okay, but for security team, what should we do? Well, one, we want to teach the devs and the ops folks everything we can so that they can do their jobs the best possible way for us. So we want to tell them what we need from them. So, oh, you're building a serverless app. That's cool. Here's best practices we'd like you to follow, or here's some requirements, or here's a secure coding standard that we would like you to follow when you're building software. If we don't give them any guidance, we really can't be upset when they don't follow it, right? Ideally, we want to share information widely when we can. Like if there was a big problem, if it's okay to talk about it, we should. We should share all the information possible. And we should use metrics and data from all of our tooling and all of our testing to try to fight systemic issues. So it doesn't make sense to pen test 100 apps if the first pen test shows no one's using any security headers, no one's doing input validation, no one's doing this. Go around because those devs made your other apps too. Go fix it in everything and then come back and hire another tester or run more scans. I think sometimes we could do a lot better if we communicated more and we could stretch our dollars a bit further sometimes. For this slide, I also have, if possible, run a tabletop exercise. Like nothing teaches like actually living through an experience. And rather than having a real security incident, you could have a pretend one, which is what a tabletop exercise is, and you go through the simulation. Sometimes it's called a security exercise or a security simulation, but tabletop exercises are super, super productive in trying to teach people. But basically, we want to teach dev and ops to do their jobs securely. That is our job. We want to teach them and enable them to do their jobs as securely as possible. Ideally, as secure as the risk posture is for our organization. So usually have an aim or a goal. We want to be this secure. Try to get them there. That's our job. That's the best we can do. What else does this mean for security? Whenever we perform a postmortem, it needs to be blameless. We can't be like, it's Bob's fault. Alice is the worst. It's always her. That's not going to solve anything or get to the root cause of anything. Ideally, we want to not point a lot of fingers, and instead we want to create learning opportunities whenever we can. Ideally, everything you do goes into a searchable knowledge base. That's sort of like an extra step that you can do. And it takes a few months. maybe even up to a year. But once you have built up a knowledge base, it's so amazing to have people not ask you questions anymore because they search the knowledge base and it's already in there. So security needs to become a part of DevOps, and that means culture change. So this means celebrating wins. What if security said, good job, instead of doom and gloom, you've done a bad job? What if we showed up and had donuts? I think we should work more closely and talk to DevOps way more than we currently do. If we can do like team building with them, or even just arrange like a team lunch once every 2 months, and it's awkward at first, but eventually it's good, getting to know each other will have better results. Like I said before, we don't want to blame a person. Whenever possible, we want to see the real root cause, which is like no training, that safeguard was broken, this policy conflicted with this other policy, or this policy prevented the person from getting their job done. Then we can actually fix what the problem is. If we just sit pointing fingers and blaming people, we get really, really stuck. And lastly, be a champion. So if you are in Dev or Ops and you're listening to this, your security team would love to hear that you are interested in championing their cause. So I'm a huge, like incredibly enthusiastic person about security champions. Like you find that Dev or Ops person who really is interested in security, you teach them everything you can, you encourage them all the time, and then they start doing security work for you. They start spotting things and fixing them. They tell you when you need to intervene. They help you so much more. And like it's so valuable. Okay, so what did we learn today? We learned that security is a part of DevOps. And what does that mean? That means DevSecOps.